Oki, Dadanastada, Ambawastich, Tansei, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me this morning. Now, typically, when I come to you on this live stream, I tell you about the state of the repairs on the feeder main, and we talk about water consumption. Today, I thought it was important to do something a little bit different. I thought it was really important to talk about what we've gone through together over the last couple of weeks. When I think about this, and I remember Wednesday, the 5th of June, we all saw on the news that there was a water main break in Bo'ness, and we saw water flooding onto the streets of that community. By 10 o'clock that evening, I had received a phone call giving me an emergency update on the situation, and it was more serious than we had originally thought. There was no sleep to be had that night, and by the time I woke up on Thursday morning, quite early, by 6 o'clock, we knew that the situation was considerably more dire. At that point, I called Premier Smith. I let her know the state that we were in. I also told her that we would need to do an emergency alert. That's when you all got that alarm on your phones on Thursday morning, the 6th of June. And that's when we knew that we would need to do some serious work around our water usage in the city. That day, I went to the Emergency Operations Center to find out what was going on. I also went on site of the break, and I talked to the crews about what they were experiencing. They were trying to get water off the site so they could actually get in the ground and understand the type of repair that would need to be done. I met with senior leaders at the City of Calgary to find out what our communications plans were and what we were going to do next in terms of water service. And I stayed in close contact with the two councillors who were most impacted by this break. And it was the day that we started the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference in our city, where I was expected to be the host. I made some quick changes to the things I was supposed to be attending and sent my regrets and told them that I had to focus on Calgarians and serving citizens here at this important time. The next day, Friday, we had more questions than answers. Somehow we were supposed to reduce our consumption by 25%, but we didn't really tell you how to do that. And so you were asking questions about, can I shower, or do I need to reduce the length of my shower? What happened, and why is the whole city impacted? And those answers weren't coming as quickly as they needed to. That day, I canceled a meeting with the Minister of Housing, and I canceled a meeting with the Prime Minister, both of them understanding that we had a crisis that we needed to address. By Saturday, I was on the ground in Bo'ness. I was meeting with Molly and Logan at the Bo'ness Community Association to understand their experience, and it was heartbreaking. They had so many people coming to get bottled water or to access the water wagons, and they were fearful. They didn't know what this held for them, and there was many people that couldn't understand English, didn't know what was happening. So many seniors, so many people with small children just devastated by this. And I have to thank the people of that community for coming together to create a water buddy system. They looked out for each other, as they always do. I went walking downtown Bo'ness with Jackie from the business improvement area, and we stopped into a lot of the businesses, and there were not a lot of patrons there. And Main Street was empty. It was a ghost town, and it was absolutely saddening to see this happen. And that's when I called Chief Administrative Officer David Duckworth and said, we have to do better. How is it that we are not getting answers to people? How is it that we are not doing more for the community of Bo'ness? What can we do, and how can we get the messaging out? And I was clear that we needed to step up our game. The next morning, on Sunday, the 9th of June, I came to you on the first 8:30 live stream and committed to doing this every morning until this situation was resolved. I also committed to you that at 2 p.m. every day from the Emergency Operations Center, you would receive an update on the state of repair and what we could expect in terms of a timeline. On Monday, the 10th, we had some incredibly good news when the residents of Bo'ness found out that their boil water advisory was over and they had water flowing to their taps that they could use. This was big news for a community that has been through so much when it comes to water over the years. On the Tuesday and Wednesday of that week, it looked like repairs were on track and things were going as planned. And then some crushing news on Thursday, the 13th. That's the day we found out the two workers had been injured on site during the welding process, and my heart sank. I was thinking of their families, I was thinking of them. I didn't know how critical their situation was. I'm happy to report now that both have been treated, both are out of hospital, one is back on the job, and the other is under the close watch of his doctor. but it reminded me very clearly that safety was an absolute priority as we went about this repair work. That happened on Thursday, and the Friday following, we got some incredibly bad news as well. We found out that with the robotic inspections that were being done on the pipe, that we had identified 5 hotspots. Now, these were not places where there were leaks, but these were places where infrastructure was starting to crumble. And if we didn't do repairs right away, we ran the risk of those turning into leaks. So the decision was made in short order to make sure that we were going to address these 5 hotspots. That was another day of trying to understand, what did this mean to all of us? How much longer would I have to ask you to conserve water? And what did it mean in terms of getting water turned back on? So I sat down with my team, I dug in my heels, and I said we need to do more. We need to make sure we understand exactly what kind of resourcing and support we need and get everybody on the ground helping us. We need to get contractors in place, we need to get supplies, we need to get parts, we need to move, and we need to tell Calgarians what's happening. That night, I also determined that a state of local emergency would be critical to moving things along in a quick and safe manner. So on the morning of the 15th of June, I declared a state of local emergency. And I did this to make sure that we had access to any means that we needed to ensure this repair work got done quickly. Saturday and Sunday last weekend, I also sat down and spoke with members from the oil and gas sector, from the construction sector, people who knew about technology that could be used to monitor infrastructure, and we came up with ideas. We exchanged them with our crews that are on the ground and the folks that were making big decisions around water. We learned that we were already doing so many of the things that were being suggested, and we also learned more about what we could do differently. And we deployed those actions as quickly as we could. On Monday, we were asking questions about how long this was going to take and whether the timeline could be tightened up a little bit. On Tuesday, the 18th, just a couple of days ago, we heard from our Chief Administrative Officer that he was answering my call to action in terms of a full incident review. I had asked CAO Duckworth on several occasions to make sure that an investigation would be launched, and he delivered that on Tuesday. He told Council that the framework for an independent incident review had been created, and the next steps are now going to be putting experts on that panel and standing up that review format. On Wednesday of this week, we got some more good news that it was anticipated July 5th would be the timeline for completion of these repairs. And much of this is because we were able to source parts from San Diego. Their local county water authority had the type of pipe that we needed. It arrived here earlier this week, and it has been treated, and it's ready to go in the ground. There are so many moving parts to this situation, and you deserve clear updates and timely updates on what's happening. And that's why my very first commitment to all of you was better communication back in the early days of this incident. Communication is critical. The more we know, the better we're able to respond to calls of action. Escalation was also important. The state of local emergency was critical to making sure that teams could move as quickly as they needed to and they could work around the clock. Collaboration and investigation were key as well. And that's where our work with the oil and gas sector, with construction crews to come up with ideas and investigate the plans and the contingency plans that would be needed were so important. And the final step, the one that we are in right now as we are doing the repairs, is advocacy. It is my job to advocate for the people of this city and this region, and that is the job that I am focused on doing. Like all of you, I want to be sure that we have a clear line of sight about what our infrastructure looks like under the ground in Calgary. Next week at Council on Tuesday, I'm going to be asking important questions to find out what we need in the budget, so we have the technology and inspection methods that are needed to understand the type of state that our water infrastructure is in. And you can bet that I will be calling in all favors from the provincial and federal governments. They have been generous in saying they're ready to step up and support as needed. Premier Smith and Minister McIver in particular have been critical in terms of contacts. So I will be calling in all favors and not leaving anything on the table. It's my primary focus to make sure that we have safety and security of water infrastructure in our city. That is the least we can do, is to give you that peace of mind that we are looking after our infrastructure. Now, the other thing that I want to do is make sure that this doesn't happen anywhere else. If it happened in Calgary, it can happen anywhere. And so I was in communication with the chair and vice chair of the Big City Mayor's Caucus and asking them what we could do. I needed to make sure that the experience that we've had here in Calgary translates into lessons learned and preemptive behavior for other cities as well. So I don't know exactly what this looks like, whether it's going to be a task force or some sort of a working group or a panel, but I know that the good folks at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities will be with me in figuring out what we do to take the lessons learned in Calgary and ensure these situations don't happen elsewhere. And there is so much appreciation and gratitude to offer. I need to say that the crews and the contractors that are on the ground doing these repairs, please know that your safety is so important to us, and we value everything you are doing to get this repair done quickly and to get us back to full water usage. And members of all the city departments who have been working together closely to understand the situation and put together the plans and contingency plans to get us to full water usage, you are seen and you are valued. The federal and provincial governments, thank you so much for staying in contact with us. I particularly have to thank Premier Smith and Ministers McIver, Ellis, and Schultz for being on call and ready to take any questions that I've had and being so willing to say any supports you need, you let us know and we will deliver on them. And to all of you, all of the Calgarians, the Airdronians, the Strathmorites, the Chestermerians, and the good people of the Tsuut'ina Nation, whether you are a business owner or a resident, thank you. Thank you for everything you have done to reduce your water usage. And I know it hasn't been easy. I can tell you, in the first couple of days, understanding how to save water was tough. I didn't know that flushing the toilet a few less times could save us a lot of water in the end. And now I have Post-it notes on all of the toilets at home and at work. Showering. We began to understand how much water we actually waste in the shower, and we reduced our shower times. All of the things that you have done matter. All of the businesses who have shut down operations while we're trying to conserve water, we know it's been difficult, and we value you for giving us that water savings. To the Calgary Fire Department and the hospitals and care facilities who have been relying on any emergency supply, I'm grateful that you were able to get your jobs done because the good people of this city and region were conserving water. I know you've all made a lot of sacrifices. I know it's been difficult, and I know there's been days that you've been anxious. There's been days that you've had no sleep. I know this because I felt the same way. I've been in this with you, and I continue to be in this with you until we can get water service restored. We are on track, and I know that if we keep up our good habits, we will get to that July 5th timeline, and we will be in a much better place. More on repairs and construction work will come to you at the 2 o'clock update from the Emergency Operations Center. And I just want to say in closing, I appreciate all of you. I value you. I know what you've been through, and I know it's been so difficult. What can I say other than you are good humans? You understand how important it was for us to band together, and that is so valuable. Please continue to take care of each other.